Let's see if I can do something about it. I think if it is command. Is it better?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, great. Fantastic. So what we're going to be talking about is turning passion into profits. And like you saw in the intro video, I believe that this is a golden era. And I'll talk about why this is a golden era. And we won't just talk about why this is a golden age, but we will also talk about how to, how to take advantage of it. Right? So first question, a lot of people ask me, why entrepreneurship? And, I have started, like Deepthi said, 2 startups. Now, in the past 6 months, I have started, I co-founded a third one. And in the next 2 months, I'm thinking of co-founding a 4th one as well. So there seems to be, along with COVID, it seems to be spreading, right? In the sense that once you are an entrepreneur, you always look at, you can't get this thing out of your mind. So that's one thing I have learned. So once you become an entrepreneur, you're always looking for how do you convert a problem into an opportunity all the time. It just, every day, during sleep, I keep getting these ideas, and next day morning, I wake up with ideas and I'll have to work on it. It's an itch. As they say in Hindi, they say, kujli hoti hai, you have to scratch it. It's kind of an itch that you have to scratch, right? So, but having said that, a logical reason why I'm passionate about entrepreneurship and why I spend my career supporting, helping, and promoting entrepreneurs is that for the first bullet point here, because entrepreneurs are future looking, they create the future. And so without those entrepreneurship ideas and energy, I think the future would be very bleak. And we need to kind of focus on the future, and it's a mindset game. It's not like Deepthi said, age is a number, but entrepreneurship is in the mind. If you think of the future and if you envision a better future than today, you are an entrepreneur. You have to just be part of creating it. That's the next step, right? And the second reason is entrepreneurs are the ones who create value. If you want to see an example of that, just look at, there was a study that was done about how much of the GDP in the US was created by immigrants and how much of it is through entrepreneurship. And you would see they have created hundreds of billions of dollars were created primarily by entrepreneurs, and that too by immigrants. And there is a correlation between entrepreneurship and immigrants because they are challengers. They came out of their current ecosystem to a new ecosystem, and they tend to be risk takers, and therefore they tend to create some entrepreneurship value there. And the third is entrepreneurs are the ones who solve problems. And we have problems all around us. And they, instead of sitting and complaining about problems, entrepreneurs put their hand up and say, I'm going to do something about it. These are the 3 reasons why our future is bright because of entrepreneurs, because of entrepreneurship thinking also. When I say entrepreneurship thinking versus entrepreneur, you don't have to start a company to be an entrepreneur. You could be in part of another company, you could be an employee and still be entrepreneur if you create a future, if you create value, and if you are part of solving problem. You could do this voluntarily, volunteering in role, you could do this in the evenings, you could do this in the weekends, but when you think of entrepreneurship, you need to, the 3 words I want to leave you guys with is problem solvers, value creators, and future creators. And that's how I look at entrepreneurship as a construct. The next one is, why now? If entrepreneurship is that important, why now? Actually, entrepreneurship has been important all the time. It's not that now is any special moment, but I think it is particularly even more easier and even more urgent that we all look at our role as entrepreneurs and value creators, because I believe we are living in the golden era. India probably, in history books, we talk about Gupta period as the golden period. I think now is the second Gupta period, if you have to actually have a comparison, because never has the forces been so conducive for helping anybody who wants to create future to do it easily. We will talk about how. The second reason is, and the reason, one of the forces that is really helping entrepreneurship journey, if you want to be an entrepreneur, is that there is ubiquitous connectivity. 10 years ago, there were no connectivity at all, right? So it's very hard to sell even if you want to sell. Today, everybody has a smartphone. You have a 500 million smartphones, and with data connected smartphone, they are not even just smartphone, they're connected to data. So access, reaching to customers, and because of the connectivity makes it very easy for you to do it. Number two, there is a local market access. What's global? Global is global and local. There is a global market and there is a local market. And market access to both. If you want to sit here and sell to someone in Berlin, you can do that. If you want to sit here and sell to someone 4 doors down who you don't know, you can do that as well. So in fact, in COVID, I have seen remarkable models emerge, and I'll probably talk about it a few slides down later. I think I can probably write a book about how COVID has actually helped entrepreneurs come out is unbelievable. In the place where I live, there is about 150 houses in the complex, and literally when COVID started, there were maybe like 20 entrepreneurs, who were doing startups. Today, almost 100 houses are doing something. Somebody is baking something, somebody is doing some gardening work, and everybody's helping each other. And suddenly there are I'm part of some 50 WhatsApp groups. That's another, it's a problem also. But everybody's posting stuff and saying, hey, I can do this. Anybody interested? And suddenly you find 10 people saying, yes, I'm interested in that. So the discovery part of a provider and a consumer, that discovery becomes very, very easy today. You are living in a golden era. If you cannot create now, when will you create, right? So this is what is the second part, is the local access. You can sell to someone 5 doors down, or you can sell to someone 5,000 miles away. This third part is mass adoption of commerce. And this is very easy. In the past 2 months, how many times did I touch the physical currency note? 0. It's unbelievable, because almost it would have, I couldn't have claimed that 3 months before. Even though the whole demonetization and all that happened, we still went back to handing out cash. But in the past 2 months, 0 cash. Everybody takes Google Pay, UPI, Paytm, number of options. Literally, even the street vendor was taking Google Pay. Everybody has the QR code and then they pay. I ordered from some shops locally, some restaurants, and the restaurants simply, you call the restaurant and then you say, you Google Pay to that number, and the restaurant will dunzo you, and then you are done, right? So imagine how easy the whole transaction digitally end to end can happen. Can you say that this could have happened, let's say 5 months back? No. So to an extent, I think a lot of, we need to thank COVID. Hopefully we are all safe, but we need to thank COVID, because a lot of habit change, these technologies existed for many, many years, but we never adopted them. We never adopted them because we are human beings. There is inertia. We are creatures of habit. If I can, go to an ATM, withdraw money, and then I can use cash, why will I change? I don't want to change. But COVID, scared us. We don't want to touch currency notes. So now suddenly you are, even though you have puts in your pocket, your street vendor will say, I'm not going to touch it. Just do Google Pay, right? So what this allows you is that it suddenly changed a habit, and this is what is called new normal, which means even after COVID no longer is the scary virus to us. Eventually, we will still continue to use Google Pay, because now we have gotten shifted to that, right? So this is what I call as the mass adoption of commerce. And this is a confluence of forces, macroeconomic forces, which is actually helping us to move forward on the adoption of technology. And that is helping entrepreneurs a lot, because now you can build something and you can sell to someone 5 kilometers away you have never heard of, take an order through WhatsApp, get payment through Google Pay, and ship through Dunzo, and you're done. You're in business, isn't it? So this is very exciting time because of these forces which are happening. Otherwise, it would have been tremendously impossible for a small entrepreneur to change customers have it. Now, COVID did that. So I'm hoping at some point, India is very, fond of building temples of people who has helped them, including movie stars. I've seen some temples come out of movie stars. Eventually, maybe 5 years down from now, there'll be a COVID temple, maybe, right? Second, another reason why now is primarily investment to start. What does it take for you to even become an entrepreneur? The amount of investment that you have to put in to start is getting very low, right? I mean, it doesn't really take much for you to start. Risk of failure is also lower because you're not putting enough, you don't really have to put too much money. Even if something doesn't work out, there's a very high chance some idea of yours may not work out. You have to bow down to the customer's wishes and bow down to the market preference. But even then you can just brush off and walk away. It's not going to be fatal. And time to market, you think of an idea and come up with a solution. That time to market and go to the market is also getting faster, right? And access to customers is getting easier and cheaper, right? So this is another set of reasons I'm giving you as to saying why you should be thinking about entrepreneurship now. So hopefully I've convinced you that this is the golden era. And I think all the way from students, in fact, by the way, very interestingly, day before yesterday, I did a similar seminar to a bunch of high school students, right? And what is very interesting is my message to them was no different from what I'm telling today. So this is another interesting part about what Deepti said is about age is a number. It is absolutely right. Age is a number for senior. Age is a number for high school students as well. Even they can punch above their weights and become entrepreneurs. So I challenged those students. I said, while you're in high school, these guys are not even past 10th standard. They are in 8th standard, 9th standard kids. And I told them, you should be a creator today. Start a business today. I don't care what that business is, but start a business today. Start thinking like a creator. I want India full of job creators, value creators. And that's the only way we will get to shine again, like what we did in Gupta period, right? So that's my ambition in terms of why this is very important topic in terms of each of us taking it seriously. So we did talk about this. Now let's now get into action. Now we will talk about how do you start, right? So the first step in entrepreneurship journey, a lot of people say, hey, Bala, I have an idea. How do I start, right? Or they will say, I don't have an idea, but I want to be an entrepreneur. How do I do that? And it's actually quite simple. It always starts with a problem. You have to start with a problem. And this is another thing I want to talk about is that my best friend in the past many years have been my problems, because they are the ones who became opportunity, right? If you wake up in the morning and you don't see a problem, you cannot be an entrepreneur. If you are very satisfied with how life is, you don't see something wrong with problems around you, you cannot be an entrepreneur, because problem is the driving force. It creates a motivation to solve it, right? And so always I say, there's a saying that in Chinese, the word for problem is same as the word for opportunity. And sorry, a word for not problem, a word for crisis. Crisis and opportunity, they are the same word, which is actually philosophically beautifully said, and it's very true. If you can convert a problem into an opportunity, you are an entrepreneur, and that's a journey. So always when somebody says, I have a problem, I get excited. I said, all right, now there is an idea here we can do something about, right? So for me, problems are friends. And I think for an entrepreneur, problems are friends. And therefore, next time you hear the word problem, wake up and say, okay, I want to hear about it. That's the next step, right? And because you are looking for, how can you turn it around and make it into an opportunity, right? So when someone says, I have a problem, you should hear opportunity. You say problem, I hear opportunity. That's how we should actually start thinking. That's the first step for an entrepreneurship journey. The next step for our entrepreneurship journey is you have to ask 2 questions about the problem. Not all problems can be converted into a meaningful opportunity. And the reason is problems come in 2 forms, 2 avatars, 2 buckets. One is what I called as vitamins, and the other ones I call it as painkillers. All of us take some, some tablets of some sort, some medicine. I take a lot of medicines too. So, but there are two types. I take vitamin D once a week, and then I take, I have diabetes. I have to wake up in the morning and I take a diabetic medicine. So there are some times when I forget to take vitamin D. Do I get worried about it? No, I said, oh, that's okay. I'll take it the next day. It's after all a vitamin. If I skip it one day, it doesn't matter, doesn't mind. But I will never ever forget to take my diabetic medicine. And the reason is they are like painkillers. They are, without them, you will immediately see a problem. With vitamin D, it's like it's kind of, it's okay. It's a nice to have. I can skip it, not a problem. So you as an entrepreneur, don't go after vitamin kind of problem. Go after painkiller kind of problem. If you have a headache, you have to take a painkiller. Otherwise, the headache is not going to allow you to function. So you need to solve painkiller kind of problems. But if it's a vitamin nice to have, it's okay. It's not urgent. So there are two questions that qualify if the problem can give you a meaningful opportunity or not. The two questions are, is the problem big enough? Meaning, is it a big problem? Is it going to give you a headache, right? So that's number one. Number two, is it urgent that you have to solve it, right? If these two questions, the answer is yes and yes, you got an opportunity. The problem suddenly became an opportunity. If the answer is, no, I mean, it's big enough, but I can drag my feet. I can solve it next week. I can solve it the week after. Obviously, you're going to have tough time. That's not going to be an opportunity. Or if it's not big enough, because the reason I say is that not every problem is an opportunity is that we all live with problems every day. Human beings have learned to live with problems. Hundreds of problems we can live with. Because if I were to say, how many problems do you, if I ask my friend how many problems he has, he can go on with a list of about 100. Right? So we're not going to be solving all our problems. We will pick and choose the problems that we solve. And the way we pick and choose are, we will solve the painkiller kind of problems, and we will not solve the vitamins type of problem. So the big question is, you have to validate. This is called validation. Is that once you have an idea, okay, I'm going to work on this problem. I'm going to create it into an opportunity. The next question is, you got to go find out. Is it big enough? Is it urgent enough? So then you have to ask yourself the next question. Why am I interested in this? What about this problem is unique that I seem to be bothered by it, but not others, right? What about this problem is unique that others don't see, but I see, right? And this is an interesting part, which is what we call as the problem founder fit. Right? Which means you always look for somebody who knows the problem deeply enough, who has lived that problem, who know the nuances of how the dynamics of the problem works. Why does the problem exist? When will the problem go away? What can make the problem go away? These are details and nuances that you got to know, right? Which means, for example, if you were to ask somebody and everybody says, you know what, money is a problem, right? So I don't have enough money. And you say, is it big enough? Yeah, it is big enough. Is it urgent enough? Of course it's urgent enough. I need money today. But if I am not a banker, I don't have any experience in the financial industry, I don't have answer to this question. I don't know anything unique about this problem that I can help others, right? So you have to also look at your strengths. You also have to look at who you are, what do you know, and what makes you unique to solve this particular problem, right? So if you want to, let's say, create a drone, drones are becoming very popular. Now, if you want to create a drone, and if you don't know hardware, right, how much ever the problem is big and opportunity is big, you are not going to be able to solve it, because you don't have something unique that others don't see, but you see, right? So this is the second part of it. So we talked about the type of problem. Give me a second. My son is Tana, can you go up? Thank you, baby. Tara, can you engage him? Yeah. Sit with him and do something. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So now, assuming that you found a opportunity space which is where the problem is big, it's urgent, and it's something that you can uniquely solve, or you know something unique about it, then how do you now go to validate it, right? So that's the next step. But let's take some examples of what do I mean by the big enough, urgent enough, and unique. For example, I'll give you one example of one of my neighbors, who started baking during the COVID, and she always loved to bake. She knows to bake, and she was always baking for her family. But during COVID, restaurants were closed, and we couldn't even go out. So suddenly we all, she put her hand up and she said, hey, somebody wants, cookies that I can bake so that you can buy and give it to your kids. And everybody put up their hand up. So the problem was big enough. The problem was urgent enough. I need cookies today. And she is a baker. And this combination really creates an opportunity. Even though COVID presented the problem, she came up with the solution for it, right? So that's one simple example. And you can think of for a startup example, you can think of many startups who have kind of done that. The next part is, how do you validate? Now, how do you know whether people are really going to be interested in it, right? So number one, you should do, if you want to, if you have thought of a problem and thought of a solution and you want to know whether people will be interested, is first is to ask your network, right? Who do I know? How can I find out, right? So ask them, ask your network. And the second is ask outside of your network. And both are important. Obviously, asking your network is important because it's easy. You just, send some bunch of WhatsApp messages or call your friends or, your walking buddies and then, bounce over with them and they will give you some bit of feedback. But don't stop there. You should ask outside of your network. And I'll tell you the reason why you should ask outside of your network. And the third one, which is ask strangers. I'll tell you why. But before that, the way you should ask outside of your network is that, let's say, you bounced off this idea with your walking buddy. And the walking buddy got excited and said, you know what, this is a fantastic idea. You should do it. And then the next question is, you should say, thank you very much. And I'm going to do this. No, that's not the next response. You should say, oh yeah, thank you very much. It looks like you like it. Can you introduce me to one of your friends who I can speak to and also validate once more? That's very important. Use your network to get introductions to outside of your network. And ask strangers, ask people that you come across on the street, your neighbors. You go to a shop and maybe the person who's trying to sell you. Sometimes actually I get this pesky call center calls trying to sell me some stuff that I'm not interested in. I actually don't hang up. I actually ask them some questions and get validation. So if they call me, anyway, they're on the line. They'll say, hey, by the way, what do you think about this idea, right? So you have to now tune your mind to say, how many people can I bounce off this idea and get some reaction, right? And the reason is, these are different shades of reaction. Your friends will always want to be nice to you. They may not be right. They may just don't want to hurt you. They see that you are very excited about this idea. Oh my God, I got this great idea. What do you think? If they say, nah, it's not going to work, it'll upset you. So they don't want to upset you. So they will always sugarcoat their feedback. Because they want to be supporters. It's not because they don't want, it's not like they want to give you bad feedback, but they will never be able to give you frank feedback. Who gives you frank feedback? Strangers. People outside your network who don't care about the relationship with you, right? So if they hang up on you, you know that, okay, that's a feedback. If they are nice to you, but they say, I don't know, it's not for me or something like that, you got it. You got the feedback. So number 2 and 3 are very, very important feedback. You should get it, right? But start with your network. It's easy. It doesn't cost you anything to bounce off with your friends. And the best would be even get strangers to ask on your behalf. And you would say, why would a stranger ask on my behalf. But you would be surprised. You know how many strangers that Deepthi got to ask on her behalf, right? So that's how she created this network, right? That she didn't know each of you on day one, but somehow each of you are canvassing on her behalf through your friends and say, you got to be part of Silver Surfers Club. And then you're bringing them in, correct? So Deepthi did it. Now, if you want to see why she was able to do it, is because she was able to create a vision in your head. She was able to give a vision and say, this is a platform for people like this. And once you subscribe to the vision, you want to grow that platform. It's like a park that everybody owns, right? And they will bring their own plants and they will plant it. They will, tend to it. They will water it because you made it as a community park. You didn't make it about yourself. So it's very important that when you ask your network, another important part is when you ask your network, don't make it as a me. I want to do this because I want this, I want that. No, you should talk about the problem. I want to do this because this is a problem for these people. And if you care about them, if you care about their problem, please help me. So this is a very important message as to how you can even ask. It's an art of asking, is to focus on the problem and the people who face that problem, not about you. You are just a messenger. You are a bug carrier because the bug is in your head and you are not able to sleep. You got to do something about it. So there is magic in number 4. There is magic in number 4. You always project it as it's about the problem and it's about the people who are impacted by the problem. All right. So few more points. Asking questions. We talked about 4 ways you can ask questions. Ask your network, ask outside of your network, ask strangers, and have strangers ask on your behalf. We spoke about all 4 of them. But asking question itself, in my bucket, is just good. But there are better things, even better than asking. What is it? Watching, right? When people who have this problem, watch them, live their life, empathize with them, see how they behave, watch their behavior. That gives you tremendous insights about how to solve it. Is it a big problem and is it an urgent problem? You will know, right? And get them to buy. That's another thing I have done in my 3rd startup, which I co-founded. We didn't even ask anybody. We simply created few prototypes of the product, and we put some price on it, sticker price on it, and we just went and showed it to people and said, "Do you want to buy?" Right? And if they open up their wallets, I know it is I've got it right. If they say, "Oh, that's great, but I'm not going to buy," okay, I get the signal as well. Right? The best feedback is the wallet. I call it as a wallet voting. If they vote with their wallet and they open up their purse and pay for their product, then you've got it, right? So sometimes it's not possible, which is why you ask questions and get started. But you cannot stop there. You cannot stop there. You have to track people. You have to get them to buy. So one example I will tell you. Deepthi, I'm not able to, because the screen is full for me. I'm not able to see the time. Please keep time for me and tell me when 10 minutes before I'm running out, so that I can pace myself.
Sure thing.
Yeah, thanks. So I'll give you an example. You guys have seen of late there is a two-wheeler sharing startup called Bounce. Have you guys seen it? Or yellow color two-wheeler which you see all over the place, right? So literally you see it on the sidewalk, you see it under the bridges. People are like, it's like dead flies there all over the place, right? So how did they become so big? It's very interesting. That founder of that Bounce, he didn't know whether people will use that service, because it's a new service. There's no other way. We've never used such a service before. It's not like till today I was reading Times of India. Tomorrow I'm moving to the Hindu. It's not like that, right? There was no comparison. People never had that service before. So he had this issue. In the sense, if you can ask people, they're not going to give them any meaningful feedback because they have nothing to compare about that service. They can't even imagine how that service will look like. So you know what he did? He did the watch their behavior part. All he did was he bought 2 or 3 two-wheelers. I don't know whether 2 or 3. He bought 2 or 3 two-wheelers, and he just parked the two-wheeler outside metro stations, right? And as people started coming out of metro station, he would just go to them and say, hey, by the way, where are you going? Do you want a two-wheeler to go there? All you can do is you take the two-wheeler, drive there, and drop it there. I don't care, right? And people said, sure. And then they paid him, and they took the two-wheeler, and he had nobody to bring it back. So he took his own two-wheeler and started going behind them all the way till wherever they were going, and with another friend in the back. So he would go there when those guys have completed their ride, and they are going to leave their two-wheeler. His friend would get off and then bring the two-wheeler back to metro, and again wait till new set of people are coming off the train, and again he would do the same. He did that literally for a few months to watch their behavior. Who finds value in this service? How far do they go, right? And why do they use it? All of this, he did not even have to do a survey. He did not even have to ask them. He just saw and watched how they used his service, and that helped them really shape what Bounce ended up being. And today it's a massive service there, right? So I'm just giving you an example. Watching behavior is a beautiful, more preferred than asking questions, because many times what we say and what we do are two different things. Because if somebody were to come and ask me, hey Bala, do you like being fit? What would my answer be? Of course I would like to be fit, right? Oh, do you know yoga, jogging, weightlifting? Of course I know all of them. But do I do it? No, I don't do it. So what I want for myself and what I do for myself are two different things. And there is also a lot of subconscious, behavior that happens. Whereas when you ask me, I will say something else. Even I don't know what I want many times, right? So these are things that, like another example, very old example, is the iPod and iPhone. When Steve Jobs created iPhone, he didn't do any survey. In fact, he said, if I do survey, I will put another crappy product in the market. Because until then, people only saw crappy music players in the market, crappy phones in the market. So if you're going to ask them, they're not going to give you good feedback because they themselves don't know what a better product looks like. So he said, I'm going to watch their behavior. I'm going to envision what they need and put it out there. They may buy, they may not buy, but at least I will know, when they see a good product, if they buy it, then I know I got it. Now today, see what Apple has become. Apple was almost filing for bankruptcy when iPod came out. And today, Apple is $300 trillion company, right? So next question, how to validate? You can use many platforms. I'm just giving you examples. You can use WhatsApp. You can send questions to WhatsApp, right? You can ask simple questions. Will you buy this? Here is a picture. Do you want to buy? Or ask them question and then have them respond to it. You can create a website if you want to go a little fancy and send the website link to people, or put it on Google, right? I mean, do some ad, run some ads on Google. Or you could create an email newsletter. So many people, their emails. Just create an email newsletter and send an email blast to them, right? And see what people, what people like, right? Or you could, if you're selling a physical product, pop-up stores. I have seen so many where I would, if I'm selling a physical product, like let's say a cookie or a t-shirt or something like that, I would simply, make few t-shirts and go and stand outside in Indranagar. Period. I will get in 2 hours, I will get so much feedback that none of, months of research will never give that, right? So see, go where your customers are. right? So go where your customers are, and then you put a pop-up store. You can actually stand outside on the street and get a lot of feedback, right? Like if you're selling some vegetables or some millets and organic stuff, go to farmers market. There are so many farmers markets coming in. In fact, every weekend in every apartment these days, they are now doing that. They're bringing producers and people to come and have pop-ups and then do shows for 3 hours, and then they all go away. So there's so much opportunity which is coming in. I'll give you one example here. A good friend of mine, he must be 65 or so. He's been head of a large company, financial services, US-based financial services company. He's been a head for 18 years. And then the bug bit him. He wants to be an entrepreneur. I don't know why, but he wants to be an entrepreneur. And I can, we both talk all the time. So I advise him. So he quit and he started a company. And the company has to do with helping mom and pop stores, brick and mortar stores, to leverage digital channels. And what he did was he said, my customers are commercial street customers. Right? So all the shops in commercial streets should become tech savvy. They should be able to engage with their customers through technology, but they are not able to. I will help them. So literally next day, he just took his car, parked outside commercial street, started from one end of the commercial street, kept knocking the doors of every shop all the way to the other end of the commercial street. Right? And then the commercial street customers said, sure, man. I mean, if you can bring me more customers, I will sign up for your platform. And he said, okay, now how do I show them that I can bring him more customers? Next day morning, he printed a bunch of 1,000 pamphlets, right? And put his company name and put a QR code. And he stood at the entrance of the commercial street, handing over the pamphlet to the customers, to the people who are coming in, visitors. And the customers are taking his pamphlets and then going into the shop and showing the pamphlet and saying, hey, there's an offer. Where is the offer? And he knew it. By end of the day, he knew how many pamphlets were collected inside a store, and that much of footfall he has generated for them, right? So this is where you go, where the action is. You go where your customers are. And creating a version of your product, simple version of your name. He was actually building a tech platform, like an app and stuff like that. But how did he start? With printing pamphlets, physical paper. It's cheap. A pamphlet costs like 20 paise per pamphlet or something like that. So to validate your product, you don't need to really over-engineer and build the full version. The validation of the product form can be physical form, cheaper form. Because what are you validating? You are validating whether this solution that I'm creating will solve the problem, and will people buy that? That is the answer that you are trying to get. And try to get that answer as cheap and effective and quick as possible, and go where the action is. Because otherwise, if you don't go where the action is, you will get noisy feedback. You will get feedback that you cannot trust. And later on, it will come and bite you. Make sense? How much ever you give me a pamphlet of a cookie, the best way to sell a cookie is to bake a cookie and give it to people and have them respond, right? Many times I've walked into malls where, the owner of the shop had like small crumbs of the cookie. He would make one cookie and, chop it into 10, 15 pieces and put it in a platter and stand out in the mall. People are walking by. He would say, you want a sampler? You want a sampler? You want a sampler? He generated so much sales just because people tasted it. And the moment you taste it, you create a wish that I want this cookie. And they'll say, sure, I'll buy it. If he showed a pamphlet and saying, my cookie is the best cookie, it is made with this, it is fantastic tasting and all that, nobody will buy it, right? So you got to see where the action is. You got to give your customer a taste of your product and have them experience the benefit of your product as much as possible. Then you create an intention for them to engage with you and buy you. A lot of people, they will give you free subscription if you're an online product. The reason is they want you to experience it. They want you to experience it, and then you will convert them into customers, right? Have them experience. That's very important. Other one, we did speak about it. We said prefer strangers over friends, and I told you guys why. I'm not saying friends are bad. Friends have to be used, and friends will get you more customers. They will become your champions. To that part, I completely trust friends. But in my third startup, in my fourth startup that I'm planning to do, I have in fact told my friends, help me spread the word, but I don't want you as my customer, right? So eventually you will become my customer, but right now I want strangers to give me unvarnished, honest feedback, right? So, and that's strangers do better than friends. Make it easy for people to evangelize your product. This is another part we don't do well. What I do with friends is I give them a tool, I give them a story about what I am doing so that they can spread the story. I'll just give you an example. I started recently one of the side projects as a hobby I was doing is I created a YouTube channel on Indian history and culture. And I created some YouTube videos. Don't ask me why, I had some other crazy bug in my head. So I did 4 episodes, and I plan to do 2 episodes every week. And I'm using shamelessly this time to plug this into you guys. Please sign up for the channel, and then I'll share the link later. But one magic thing which happened was I created a YouTube channel. I put those 4 videos, and then I just shared it to my friends. And I said, look, I know you will like these videos because you are my friend, right? So you will cheer for me. But I need honest feedback. So I want each of you to forward these videos to your friends who don't know me, and then get feedback from them and pass it on to me. Right? And I got a lot of feedback. I got a lot of constructive feedback. I got somebody who criticized saying, what is Bala talking about? And there are a bunch of people who said, this is fantastic. I like this part. I like that part, stuff like that. So I got much better feedback. And my friends, all they are doing is becoming my champion. They are sending it to their WhatsApp groups and they are saying, watch it and give back. He's my friend. I need to give him feedback. Right? So make them evangelize your product. And the third part is, I always say that create an ask. Every meeting that you have, anybody you meet, you should be able to ask them something. And it's a very powerful habit. Be shy to ask. We always want to, be the big person and keep giving, which is okay. I'm not asking you to stop giving, but with every time you can ask also, right? You can say, hey, can you help me with this? And maximum what will happen? They will say no. That's all, right? You move on. They're not going to take your shirt away, right? They're not going to put you in jail. They will simply say no and move on. That's it. But you have a massive upside. Maybe they will say yes. And suddenly that door opens the doors. So as an entrepreneur, you should move past your fear of hearing no, fear of hearing rejection, and always create an ask. And I think I spoke about this in one of the search talk. It's a very powerful habit that you can form. And be shameless, be persistent. I always tell people I respond only after the 3rd email. And the reason is I'm just seeing whether it's important for that person to get my response. Because a lot of people reach out to me. I unfortunately, in my profession, too many people reach out to me. I have to have a way of prioritizing. I'm not trying to be snooty, but I just can't handle so much volume. So I need some way of filtering it. My way of filtering it is, if somebody is asking for the same thing 3 times, right? That means it's important to that person. Otherwise, why would they come and ask the 2nd time? Why would they come and ask me the 3rd time? So I take the 3rd time reminder very seriously. I will never make them ask me 4th time. But 3 times, I mean, sometimes I do it. It's not like I wait for them to ask me 3 times. Sometimes I do it immediately. But a lot of things fall off. And then when they come and say, hey, Bala, I asked you last week. I didn't hear from you. Let me know if it's, if you can do it or not. That is important signal for me, right? Otherwise, a lot of times I have done, even before some people have asked, I have done some stuff, but they don't value that. They don't value that. Same thing I tell, a lot of parents come to me and say, help my child, with this, they need some advice, they need some mentorship. I said, no, you don't become a mediator to your child. If your child or son or daughter wants help, let them ask me, because the act of asking is very important for the person who's hearing as well as for the person who's asking. So let's embrace this. Let's go past the fear of rejection. Let's go past the fear of no. Let's always ask, and let's be persistent. You don't want to be a pain, but asking 2 times, 3 times, not a problem. Maybe the 3rd time you should say, I'm not going to be asking you anymore because I've asked you 3 times and maybe this is not important to you. I just want to be thankful for, reading my email or reading, listening to me. But there's one more chance you can do this for me, right? So you gotta create that. Then another very powerful tool in terms of validation is to look for affordable loss. I mean, affordable loss is a beautiful concept. And the concept is like this. What is important to you may not be important to the other person. What is important to them may not be important to you, right? So if you ask a person that is not important to them, but is valuable to you, that's called affordable loss. They can afford to lose it, but it's valuable to you, right? So if you have to ask someone and if you say, hey, give me your money, you know what? No, because that's important to me too. But give me your time. Well, that's an affordable loss. Maybe I have some time I can give you, but that time could be more meaningful to you than to me. Correct. So similarly, I mean, I have seen this. In fact, I'll give you my personal example of affordable loss that I saw was mind-blowing for me. I did this course somewhere. It's called Landmark Forum, fantastic course, which really transformed how I looked at life and things like that. But this is a very interesting course for another reason. They have these 200 people in this room, and from all walks of life, I would not have interacted with otherwise. It's not like I'm interacting with people who are my colleagues in my in my company. It is more, there is a farmer, there's an auto driver, there is another person who can't even speak English and all that. So 200 people in this room, all strangers, right? So and they make you do some group exercise. It's a kind of put you through like some 6-7 people into a group, and they give you an exercise and you have to do it. And I'm kind of talking to 6 people who are from different walks of life than mine, and they also look at me like alien. I look at them as an alien, so the feeling is mutual. But here is the thing. I told my relationship with money is a little painful because I came from a lower middle class family. I don't have that constraint of money today, but I somehow still look at money as scarce. I can't get rid of this from my head. And then there is this another gentleman. He's a Telugu gentleman. He couldn't speak really much of English. I'm sure he's a ready and very landed guy. So he said, it's interesting that you say this. For me, money was abundant all the time. And I always lacked respect from people. Nobody respected me because I never passed 10th standard, right? So he's rolling in money, but he doesn't have respect. I'm rolling in respect. I don't have money, right? It's not like I don't have money, but to me, money kind of feels like something is still very precious and valuable. So this is an affordable loss situation, because if I ask him money, he will have enough to give, correct? But because he doesn't have any issues with that. But if I can give him respect, so there is affordable loss is a beautiful, meaningful exchange of value, which is asymmetric, which means the value to the receiver is more than the value of that thing to the giver. You should know Facebook. You should know how to use Instagram. You should know how to send out emails. You should know how to create website. You should know how to write beautiful content and brochure. You should know how, what kind of online payment options are there. You should know how to track your sales and your customer data on spreadsheets. If you don't know this, no problem, learn it, right? Because it doesn't really take much. You guys are really smart. I learn it all the time. One of the reasons why I started doing this YouTube video on Indian history is because I saw that we are living in the era of video content consumption. We moved away from, there was a time when people read a lot of text. I can clearly see the shift in our consumption pattern. These days, we all see a lot of videos. And one of the reasons we see a lot of videos is that the data is becoming cheap. Each of us have gigabytes of data. and the internet speed has increased. And these two factors has led to a lot of videos being consumed, right? So given that videos are consumed, between watching a video versus reading text, and people always like to watch videos, and you can make it more richer and interactive and more visual and all that. So, but I didn't know how to create a video. I didn't know how to edit a video. I didn't know what tools to even use. How do you mix video? Like, how do you chop things and then, do some animations and all that? I'm like, how come I don't know? I'm becoming a dinosaur. So I use this creation of this, Indian history thing only as a excuse for me to pick up that skill. What did I do? First thing I did was I called my daughter and said, please show me how you do this. And then she showed me, and then I saw a bunch of how-to videos on YouTube. You can literally, Google is the best teacher. I went there and said, how do you crop this video in this particular software? And then, there are a bunch of guys who have shown, who created how-to videos, and then you learn from that, and then you learned it. And, by now I'm feeling a lot more confident that I'm teaching my daughter. So this learning never stops. Learning never stops for any of us. I think until the day we go away from this earth, we will be learning. So I think it's a good skill. It's a very important skill, and it's a very foundational skill. Technology is no longer a nice to have skill. If you don't feel comfortable about these technologies, you will feel handicapped. You will always feel a little hesitation, because whatever business you create, you will be using these things. I forgot to put in the Facebook and Instagram in the list, but that's very important as well. So learn, spend some time. If you have to go to an institute to learn through an institute. There are lots of online courses that you can, it can teach you, how to send, how to write, what kind of online payments. You just have to go to Google and then learn. And then there are many online courses. If you like physical courses, then you can actually sign up for that. Or you can catch hold of a teenager in your, in wherever you live. And you can basically say, 30 minutes every day, you're going to come and show me how. And that's, they will do it, correct? So where there is a will, there is a way. But I just want to leave you with a message that this is very, very critical. So some terms, and this is my last slide, and I think it's a reasonable time for me to stop. Few things, I'm not going to go way too much into this. In fact, I can talk for another 1 hour just in this topic, which is, what are the things you need to keep in mind when you are building your business? First thing you need to keep in, how much does it cost to get a customer? It's called CAC, which is CAC, and which means customer acquisition cost, right? And which is like, for example, I'm just going to go back to the, standing in the middle of Indiranagar story. It's like if you're selling a new concept of a garment, and you want to see, and if you think that, standing in Indiranagar and doing it, maybe you will hire a person for a day and pay that person 200 rupees and make that person stand in Indiranagar and keep waving these t-shirts. And then if you sold 10 t-shirts, then your customer acquisition cost was how much? If your t-shirts are, 500 rupees, so 10 t-shirts means you made 5,000 rupees, and you spent 500 rupees for this boy who stood on the street and sold it to you. So it is 500 by 5,000 is each customer costed, right? So it's important to track, because you're going to be using multiple channels. Sometimes you will sell through WhatsApp, sometimes you'll sell through Facebook, sometimes you'll sell through Google, and you may have to pay for ads. Sometimes you'll sell through partners, sometimes you'll sell through retail locations. How much are you paying to get a customer? That's very important metric. Second thing is, how much is the customer worth overall in the lifetime of the customer, which is called LTV, which is called lifetime value of the customer, over the entire lifetime of the customer. How much will that customer be buying you from? How much worth, right? So for example, if you think a customer will stay with you for 2 years, that's your LTV period. And in this 2 year, the customer will buy 10 times, and that's the frequency, which is the last point here. And each time that they buy it for 5,000 rupees, correct? So, and 10 into 5,000 is your LTV. correct? And you paid something to acquire the customer, and you got so much in the lifetime of the customer. Clearly, this should be lot more than the CAC. Then you know your business margin, mota or gross margin, you will know how you are running the business. So you got to start, you guys are all very smart. You will intuitively get it. But these are something that you should start measuring. So I would say, create a spreadsheet, create what all activities I did, how much did I spend, how many customers came through this activity, how much did they spend with me, right? And then you will start tracking them and create a loyalty program, or create a follow-on purchase type of program. Never let a customer go with one purchase. If somebody bought from you, they should buy from you again, right? So you have to give them an incentive. You have to tell them, hey, is it okay if I send you once in a while a WhatsApp, ping on if I have any new products or next batch coming in or something like that. Always add them into a promotional newsletter or a new promotional messaging, and then keep going back to them, right? So these are things that you would do to get started. It's very easy, frankly. I don't think it's hard science. There's a lot of intuition, but I hope we discussed few clear path of how you can get started, right? If at the end of this, this is the end, by the way, but if by this, by now, if I've confused you more, then I have failed in this session. But so let me know, be honest. Yeah. So with this, I'm going to start. I'm going to stop rather. My parting message is, let's create the future. It's all about creating the future, and that's exciting, right? So thank you very much for the opportunity. I enjoyed speaking. Now I want to hear from you guys.
Thanks so much, Bala. Everyone, round of applause through the emojis I just showed you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Moving on to a few questions, and I'm also going to speak on behalf of a lot of our members because I work with them very closely, and we have actually, contemplated, because we have a lot of entrepreneurs, as you can see, the number of people who've joined this session. I think an area that a lot of the seniors are struggling with a little bit is how to market their product. Mm-hmm. So, today there are tons of platforms available to seniors. They're not sure, should they pay money? Why should they pay money to market it? Is it necessary? Is there an easier way to get to it? What platforms to use? Things like that. Right. So what's your advice in that case?
Yeah, so I think there is no clear answer. That could be another session, because marketing itself is quite deep and vast. The way I would, I would give a broad answer, and then we will kind of, there is some more detail that I may have to skip. Sure. You have to go where your customers live, meaning not just physically, but even online. Right? So where do they go? Like watching customer, For example, like I said, this bounce person, he went to metro station and stood outside, right? That's the best way he could get the marketing going, right? So I think we got to see, depending on the product, you have to go where your customers are. Now, when you know where your customers are, you will know things around that customer, which through which you can market, right? So if you're selling a physical product, or if you are opening a restaurant, opening it in Indiranagar or someplace like that, automatically helps you, right? The location helps you. But you have to create an email newsletter. You have to send it through WhatsApp. So a bunch of different channels and ways in which you do it. But on an average, I do see that there is predominantly sending messages through WhatsApp, building a contact list, sending messages through WhatsApp. Facebook, have a Facebook page, have a website, create a newsletter, email newsletter, have an Instagram page. These are things that you must do. There is just no substitute for it. And then there are some products where physical interaction is important, which means you have to interact physically with the customer. In which case you got to decide, like that friend of mine who stood on Commercial Street. That's very important for him. He has to market there, right? So sometimes the physical means you have to have presence in physical locations and physical places, maybe malls, maybe studios, and these days apartment complexes are becoming much more open to feature new products, and if you're selling something of that nature. So you got to, first question I would ask is, I do a 2-hour workshop on this. It's called Bullseye Marketing. And the idea of that workshop is primarily spending time to understand which channels are important for your product, and then look at out of which one you will pick, and then run some experiments on it. Sometimes PR is important. Being featured in newspapers are important. Sometimes, television advertisements are important. I mean, it's like so many things. But I would say, right now, when you are at the stage of starting entrepreneurship journey, you got to create customer engagement through content, online presence, and messaging, constant messaging to your customer. That is becoming very critical, irrespective of what you're selling.
Thanks so much, Bala. That was quite an in-depth explanation. I hope everyone understands what you said. I'm going to go through the list of questions. I'm just going to go through the chat and pull up questions. Blaze says she loves the concept of affordable loss. I think that was insightful for all of us. Usha wants to know, what is a pop-up store?
Okay. A pop-up store is a store that gets set up for a few hours and then you dismantle it. So a lot of malls and physical locations allow you to create just a store with a shell. You bring your stuff to display and you put it out there, and then people buy. After 4 or 5 hours, you dismantle it and then take it away. Those are called pop-up stores. In fact, in the malls now, I think malls are now slowly opening up. I see that in VR Mall, if you were to go near Phoenix Market City on the VR Mall, there is actually a physical location with pop-up stores, which means that what gets sold within that physical location keeps changing all the time. And if you go on a weekend to any mall in the central location of the malls, there are, every week there is a different exhibitions type of things that are happening. Those are pop-up stores.
Great. Thanks for that, Bala. Uma Madan says she needs insight on services. Now, I think that's a very relevant topic. I think all this while we've been discussing products more than services. She is in the space of special ed. So to start therapies under one roof and things, but what's your take on services?
No, it's not different at all. Even though I used a lot of physical product as an example, all the things that I mentioned are can apply to services. I have not sold, my startups are all service-based startup. They are not product-based startup, except for one. So most of my experience, whatever I told right now, completely applies to service as well. Service is actually even more simpler compared to product, because in product you have to manufacture it, and so therefore there is an investment in that. But services is primarily a promise, right? So it's a promise, and you are when there's a lot of variable cost in that, so even better. One thing I would say though is that communicating a service is much harder compared to communicating a product, because if in a product you can actually show the product, make them touch and feel and eat and experience and all that stuff. Services becomes hard. So you need to bring in a lot of credibility in your credibility. Why should I trust you type of thing? So your background, your team's background, some certifications, and testimonials, customer testimonials, references, those become very important, because those are the signals that your customers will look for before deciding whether they should go for your service or not. So I would also, another thing I would recommend these days, I'm seeing a lot of what is called as an explainer video, which means you would have, you would create a video which explains your service, and content becomes very important from a service perspective. The more content they see, you should have a YouTube channel. And by now I can tell with my 2 weeks of experience, creating YouTube videos is actually not that hard. You should definitely, each of you should be video creators, content creators. You should come out as, talk about your product, your service, and, maybe you interview your customers, some of your customers on a video, put that video out. Nothing sells in service like your customer saying, yeah, I used them, it was fantastic.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. Also, I must let you know, we have some awesome video creators in-house. So they're already one step closer to
Fantastic.
YouTube.
Yeah.
Susan asked a very relevant question. we need to register a company, isn't it? And at what stage? Now, a lot of them are just toying with ideas, right? So at what stage do you register?
Well, it has become easier, much easier today than about 10 years ago to operate. I would say you don't need to register if you are a proprietary company. In a proprietary company, you don't, your personal bank account is good enough. But I would recommend people to register either a LLP or a private limited company. But private limited company, do not, unless you are very clear that this is going to be an ongoing concern. When you are toying around with an idea, you don't need to register, frankly. You don't need to register. I've done stuff without registering as a company when I'm toying around, right? So during validation and all, you don't need the registration. It's sooner, what happens is you can start a proprietorship concern or a partner concern. I think partnership is easy. It makes it also a limited liability partner. So you can have your spouse or a family member as a partner. You need two people to have a partnership concern. Partnership concern is very simple. You can create a simple partnership deed document. You register that partnership deed document and you are in business. With that document, you can now apply for a PAN card, and with that PAN card, you can apply for a bank account. The entire process is not expensive at all. It takes you probably like 5,000-10,000 rupees and takes about a month or a month and a half. Getting the PAN card is the most, it takes about some time, like I think it takes about 3 weeks or so. And then you set up a bank account and you are in business. That's pretty much it. And then your accountant will be able to help you with respect to some other like shop and establishments, approvals and certificates and all that stuff. That will come, as and when you go. But when you are validating, you don't need it. You can just get started with your personal account.
Great. Asha says it's easy to promote food. What about gift items? Difficult to promote those? Is there someone who could help with that?
Why does she think that it's difficult to promote the gift item? I'm not sure why she thinks that way. It's difficult to promote anything.
Anything, absolutely. I agree with you.
Right? So it is, I think gift items are discretionary, but there is a deeper need you have to tap into. Like, for example, I would say the gift items are fungible. That's the biggest problem with the gift item, which is that I can buy any gift, because it's not for me, correct? So I'm just gifting. So I see that in India, people are not very thoughtful about the gift. That's why I tell people, please don't give me a gift because it gives me headache. Because people give me all sorts of crappy gifts, which I don't need. I don't know what to do with it, correct? So I think if you can create a thoughtfulness angle to the gift, I think that would be fantastic, right? So second thing is, if you can create some purpose behind the gift, I think that's becoming more and more, people are becoming more and more aware of it. They want to be generous. There needs to be a generosity angle to it as well. So you have to tug into some other emotional hook for the gift. And I think that is why I think she probably, I'm reading into her statement about gifting is art. But in gifting, it's an impersonal thing. Like, there's a person who's gifting to the other person. He doesn't care about what he's gifting. He's just like, okay, all right, he's invited me. I have to go to the gift and, get rid of it. But if there is an emotional hook that we can, bring in, it makes gift a beautiful, wonderful act to do.
True. Great. Okay, we're moving on to the next question. How do you learn? This question comes from Majori. How do you learn different types of technology that you mentioned, as it may not be possible for seniors to learn on one's own without some formal guidance?
Absolutely. I think it's, you always need help. Forget about seniors. For anybody, they need help from, it's easier to learn when somebody who has done it can teach you at least the initial steps. And then after that, it becomes easy. So I always look for who in my network can help me with it, right? So like I said, when I started the YouTube video, I didn't know how, ABCs of that. I simply asked my daughter. So you just have to, if my daughter wasn't there, I would have asked my neighborhood teenager, who spent a lot of time on doing stuff like this. So you just need to put your hand up and say, hey, I'm interested in, I'm looking for some help in this area. And then there will be somebody, Silver Surfers Club, like Deepthi said, is a fantastic place to start, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, just taking forward from what you're saying, Bala, just last week, I think we organized a little question answer session to see where our seniors need help. And we wanted to start a learning and development vertical where we could then start training our own members to get on technology and do all of these things that you spoke about. So Majori, please reach out to me anytime and we'll be happy to help.
So yeah, Deepti's answer.
Moving on, many online free courses for all technology available. We need to search. Yes, you're right. Going through the questions. How much information can you share with a prospective customer who will ultimately use the information you shared on their own? Yeah, so I think data privacy is a bit of a concern with new ventures. And this comes from Philip.
I see. I wouldn't worry about it. Ideas are dime a dozen. It's the execution that, that separates a successful venture versus an unsuccessful venture. If everybody executes, that's a different story. Execution is where the hard work is. Execution is where the real secret lies. If somebody were to ask me, what is the secret sauce for a company? I'd say it's the execution. It's not the idea, because your idea will keep changing. You will have an idea, you will start with an idea, in 6 months, your idea will morph, it will evolve and all that stuff. It is your execution that is your secret sauce. So be generous with your idea. When you talk to someone, be generous with, tell them everything. I mean, unless you are building some super secret defense, product, don't worry about intellectual property. Don't worry about it. If you will execute better than the person who heard it from you, that's the success. And if maybe that person is able to execute your idea better, he deserves to win. So I would say the battle is decided on execution, not on idea creation.
Great. And also I think having competition allows you to do your best, right? So it's healthy to have competition.
Right. I completely. In fact, I'll give you an example. I did my second startup. I did that second startup took multiple, left turns and right turns. I started with a partner. Later, the partner kind of, it didn't work out between us. So the partner said, you know what, I'm going to copy this idea and I'm going to, do it on my own and I'm going to beat you. I said, dude, copy my idea. Here is everything. I'm giving you all of it, right? In 6 months, your journey and my journey will not look alike at all. I told him this. And then in 6 months, exactly that's what happened. We started off with the same idea, but because each of us think differently, right? So we respond to the market differently. So he went in this way, I went in this way. Initially, we all started with the same, idea, but the way we reacted to our market and the way we developed our, the product and everything else, right now, it doesn't look same at all, right? So please don't feel insecure about these things. Be very open. You want champions, as part of creating champions, few of them, you may create some competition, but that's okay. It's the cost of doing business, right? Eventually you need everybody to adopt you, buy from you, and they will buy from you for various reasons. There is always going to be substitutes for your product. Your product will never be the only unique product in the world. Get over it, right? They will buy from you because they like you. They'll buy from you because of the promise and the vision you have. That is what is more important. And that has to come from heart. That has to come from your deeds. It won't come from that idea.
So also having confidence in your own idea and business is very important.
It's very important. I would say, just be biggest champion of your idea. Let that idea float out. Let others be part of that idea. And then you will see something beautiful, magic emerge.
Great. Well said, Bala. My God, you're giving me goosebumps. Rama has a very important question. She says, what could be an estimated period of wait to see if a venture is going to be successful? Is there any ballpark figure of duration that you can share with us?
It's I'm not going to be prescriptive because some products and some services will have its own gestation period. But I would say I would give it about 3 months to get some feedback from the market to know whether it's going, not going, kind of a thing. It doesn't have to be a success, but at least it gives you enough hope to hang on to and go to the next stage. It's always important to create some milestones, and so I would say. But the way I look at it is that, like, for example, when I started this YouTube thing, I said, I'm going to create 10 videos no matter what, right? Then I'm going to show it to 100 people and get their feedback. And out of the 100 people, if 50 of them say it sucks, I don't know what you're doing here, then I will decide to shut it. Correct? But if it's like 10-20% of them says it sucks, but the 80% of them say it's great out of the 100, that gives me a hope to work on the 80 and then build that breed of 80 people. Why did they like it? And I want more of that 80. So it is more of it's not a time frame, it is more of these milestones that you need to, because there will always be guys who will say, I don't want your product. Because you're not going to be selling to everybody in the world. You just need to find enough of the people who like your product. So to do that, you start with 10 and you say, even if 3 people like your product, 7 people don't like your product, the next question you should ask is, why did these 3 like the product? What characteristics will describe these 3? Then I will ignore the 7 and I will see where can I find 30 of these 3 people. Right? I will actually ask them. I will say, hey, where can I find more of your kind of people? Right? So where do they hang around? Where do they live? I want to stalk them. So I will take that 3, which worked, as my frame, and then go deeper in it and say, how can I copy paste these 3 guys? What characteristics? Why did they buy? I'll ask them, why did you buy? A lot of people say, oh my God, aren't you happy that we bought? I said, I'm very happy that you bought. But I want to know why you bought. Because I'm giving you a story, I'm giving you my sales proposition, but you may have bought for some other reason, right? Because I told the same sales proposition to the other 7 who didn't buy from me, who didn't like this, but you bought it. So that means there is something in your head that told you that I need this. I want to know what that is, right? Then the next question is, where will I find more of you guys? Correct? That would be my next step. So instead of measuring it in terms of time frame, I would measure it in terms of finding the breed of customers, potential customers who need my product. And if I try 2-3 times, 2-3 iterations, and I still can't find enough of people who are buying that, I will say, you know what, let's move on. Let's be realistic.
True.
Does that make sense?
I also think just an extension of what you're saying, it's very important to know your customer, right? To have a clear idea of who your customer is. That kind of makes things easier for people, for businesses rather. Okay, moving on to Sakuntala's question. If you need mentoring, is it best to go to an organization like TIE or NASCOM Garage, or an individual who will invest so will have more skin in the game?
All of the above. I think a mentorship is, take all the help that you get, right? So you go to NASCOM, go to TIE, go to different, Silver Surfers has fantastic mentors, and then, go to individuals who can mentor. I think mentorship is not a limited thing that you only get one mentor and all that. The more mentors you get, the better it is, but you make the decision. Mentorship, a lot of people, the problem with mentorship is a lot of people come to me and ask me for advice, and they would just unvarnished take my whatever I'm telling and then say, oh, Bala told me and therefore I'm going to do it. I get scared with that. Correct? Mentorship is nothing but a suggestion. Mentors are supposed to open your mind to different possibilities, but you are in the driving seat. You can say, I will not accept this mentor's suggestion. Thank you very much, but I'm not going to work on it. I will accept this mentor's suggestion, because you are the one who's combining all the feedback that you're getting and picking the one that works for you, right? Because it's your skin in the game. I don't think any mentor can have enough skin in the game as much as your skin. So don't give up that driver's seat to somebody else, right? Mentors are only supporters. They are not the owners.
Great. Bala, we have so many more questions. I'm a little concerned. It's 6:30. We'll probably just pick up one or two more questions. Otherwise, this session, and maybe I'll email you the rest and you can respond in your own time. I don't want to take too much more of your time.
Sure.
Majority again asked for technology courses for a senior. I think we've addressed that question about technology. Arun asked to market. What would be a better option? Promotional or subsidized selling or hard and sustained marketing?
Can you say that? Emotional? What?
Promotional
Promotional. Okay.
or subsidized selling or
Okay.
hard and sustained marketing?
You got to push and pull, I would say. I've seen sometimes subsidized selling might come and bite you back, because we don't know whether the people have bought it just because it is subsidized, and will they come back if it is actually in full price. That's one. But sometimes it's also hard to get people to believe in your product at full price. So you got to play with it. So what I do is I do things like A/B testing. In technology world, there is something called A/B testing. When I was working, I'll give you an example. Almost every company, tech company, does that today. They create multiple versions of their websites, right? And they will, let's say that there are 100 visitors visiting their website, they will show version A to 30 of them, version B to the next 30, and version C to the next 30. And they will see how people are interacting with this website. And then it informs them. In one website, maybe the button is bigger. In the other website, maybe the button is on the bottom. Third website, the button is of different color. And it will tell them, okay, when the button is in the bottom, people didn't discover the button, so it doesn't work. The engagement levels are low, versus the button is bigger, so bigger button works. So you have to do this kind of A/B testing. I think don't think of, will I scale like this? Will I sustain like this? Initially, it's all about discovery. It's about learning. You are learning from the market. Every interaction with your customer has to help you know the market well, right? So don't let a buying customer walk away just by giving you money. You should ask them, why did you buy? Right? So, and the other question you should ask is, would you have bought if it was, 500 rupees more? You should ask that question, frankly, because a lot of us hesitate. Oh my God, somehow they bought it. But will they, why should I ask them? Because I'm giving them ideas. But don't worry, you should ask. See, remember, we have to be shameless. So you should ask them this question. Would you have bought if it was 500 rupees more? And let's say if a customer is walking away without buying, stop that person and say, what would you give to buy this? Then you know the lower end of the pricing as well. So initially you have to do a lot of high touch interaction with the customer, and that's very important, because you're learning from that process. Who's paying, how much they're paying, why, what is going on in their head, what are they comparing my product with, right? So how urgent is this particular product of mine? All of this are things that you have to kind of keep thinking about. And I would say, if you have to give away something just to learn about the customer, give away free also. I don't care. But I hate giving anything free, because when you give it free, people don't value it. Absolutely. Right? Because we still don't know how much will they value, because price is a signal of value to me. If either price or attention, one of the two. But I will never, in the initial phase of validation, I will never let any customer walk away just by buying my product and going away. It cannot be a transaction. It has to be intelligence that I can gather from the customer.
Great. I think we're doing a thesis on this topic right now. Ragini has a question, and I'm going to skip questions that are pertaining to each one's businesses and going more to, universal questions. So Ragini has an interesting question around bounce. Basically, what she's trying to ask here is that bounce came up because of COVID, right? It was a situation that posed okay, but irrespective, what she says is today businesses that were booming earlier may not exist today because of COVID and suddenly come to a standstill. So what sort of backup plan or, contingency plan should companies have?
So it's hard as a startup to have contingency plan. right? You're not like an Apple that, you can have contingency plans there. You're betting all your eggs in one basket as an entrepreneur. When you are
Bala,
young.
just to interrupt you here, I think where Ragini, she's got an established and very successful business. So
Okay.
I'm assuming
Got
she's
it.
coming from there.
Okay, so maybe the context there is you are a established company, and how do I respond if there is a point of crisis? A crisis is hard. So I actually have done one webinar on how should startups respond to crisis, and I'll just summarize that in kind of a sentence, and if I'll probably share the link to that webinar if she's interested. But I would say startups have to ask two questions in the time of crisis like COVID. Number one, how do I sustain myself to get through this crisis, right? That's number one. I have to do anything to get through this crisis and survive this crisis. I don't care about growth and all that. I just need to, duck down and let the tsunami go past me without getting killed. That's number one question. Number two, at the end of it, the market would have, kind of messed up your dynamics in the market. Market would have gotten messed up, that things would not be the same as what it was before. So I need to have a view of, in a post-COVID, how is my world going to look like? How will my customers' concerns change? And there are some permanent changes, which is what we call as a new normal. And there are some temporary changes. For example, like I said, paying through, Google payment and all that stuff. Earlier, you have to convince a lot of people about, hey, can you pay me online? But now, literally everybody is paying online, which means they will never go back again to cash payment later. Some of them will go, but overall, majority of them have gotten comfortable with online payment. So that is a new normal. So if you're in a cash business, you're going to have tough time post-COVID, because a lot of your customers would have gotten used to online businesses. Same with education. Literally every school is running through Zoom classes and Google Classrooms and all that stuff. It's shifted education as a market as well. Healthcare, it shifted healthcare as a market as well. I mean, a lot of people are getting comfortable with online consultation. My last consultation for my son was a Zoom consultation. It would have been impossible. The same doctor has never touched a laptop before. Because I know I go and meet him. It's I don't care about this laptop. But like last week, he did a Zoom call. so a lot of markets will shift permanently. You need to know where your market is shifting and build or change your product so that once the COVID is over, you have a strong chance of winning that market. Because don't expect the market to be the same as what it was before. To that extent, you have to unlearn some of the things that you have that has worked for you. Question things. Will it work in the new normal? And what will be the new normal? Am I prepared? Is my product and my service prepared for the new normal scenario? These are the questions I would ask.
Great. Excellent. I'm moving on to the next question from Shangon. What are the tax issues that one needs to be wary of when starting up?
I don't think you should worry about it. Talk to your accountant, but I don't think it has been such a worry for me. Frankly, I don't worry about the tax. Tax issues will come only when you make money. So let's first make money.
Good answer. Great. I think, okay, Majori has one more question, and I promise this is the last, Bala. Are there examples of doing entrepreneurship as volunteering, as money alone may not provide enough motivation?
Absolutely. I think entrepreneurship is not about money. If you are going after money, you will not be successful. Money is a side effect of entrepreneurship, because if you create massive amount of value, then money automatically, finds its way to come to you. But if you chase money, money itself is not the value. So entrepreneurship is all about creating value. I have never even used the word money even once in my presentation. I think it's a recipe for disaster if we keep money in mind to do that. But what we should do is work on creating value, right? And the value exchange could be through money or could be through something else. Could be through impact. If you are volunteering for an NGO or something like that, you don't measure through how much money you've generated. You would measure through the amount of impact you've had on lives, right? So exchange of value is what is about entrepreneurship, or creation of value. Those are the things you should measure. And the metric for value could be non-monetary metric too.
Great. Okay, guys, so that brings us to the end of this session. Bala, thank you so much for so patiently responding to all the questions. I'm just going to quickly share a few of my takeaways that I think everyone's going to benefit from. Guys, I think first and most importantly, your best friends are your problems. So convert your problems into opportunities, and there you have a great business idea. Vote with wallet. I mean, Bala, I don't think you could have said this enough. I think the minute people put money in on your idea, that's when you know that you're destined for success. Go where your customers are, and of course, know your customers. That's most important. Otherwise, you're just going to be shooting in the dark and wasting a lot of time. So it's important to understand who your customers are. Ask, be shameless. This is the second time Bala shared this with us. He reinstates the fact that it's very important to be shameless and just ask, or you will never know. Be persistent and go past that fear of rejection. That is very, very important. I know a lot of you don't ask, and you'll have just been brought up in an environment where you're taught not to ask, but times have changed, people have changed. If you don't ask, you will possibly get left out. So ask. Entrepreneurship is an opportunity to learn. I can vouch for that myself. The number of things I've learned ever since I started Silver Surfers, including hosting webinars like this, not in my wildest dreams. So use this as a time and opportunity to enhance your skills. All of you have done that. I've seen you all do it at remarkable speed. I never thought I'd see any of you all on a Zoom call, but here you are discussing entrepreneurship. So yes, of course, I think it's a fantastic time to learn. And yeah, so I think those were the main points that I took away, Bala. And I hope everyone really enjoyed this session. Please give Bala a round of emoji applause, guys. I mean, I'm still, I could listen to you for hours, Bala. Honestly, this was fantastic. And good luck with your YouTube channel. Please share the link with us. I'm sure it will just spread like wildfire.
Yeah, just go to girisaballa.com and you will see it. Like whatever I told you guys so today, I have done it. I have a website. I've created a YouTube channel and sending stuff to, Facebook. So I'm following what we are saying. I'm an entrepreneur again and again and again. So every time I do it, I learn a lot, like Deepti said. And all I did today was to share those experiences. And I watch a lot of startups, so I share those experiences. But every time I speak to you guys, I'm deeply grateful that that I'm able to share with you, as well as I see the amount of enthusiasm in the questions and you joining and listening to me. I'm grateful, frankly, for this.
Thank you so much. You can be sure we will connect with you again. All right, everyone, that brings us to the end of this session. Thank you so much. Leave your feedback. Let us know what you think. If you have any other questions, reach out and I'll get them answered. And we'll see you at the next session with, I think the next topic is the power of positive mindfulness with Ian Faria. So we'll see you at the next one.
Ian is a great guy. So I think Ian's session would be very nice.
You should join us too.
I know. Sure. Please. Yeah.
Done, for sure. Great, everyone. Have a fabulous evening and a weekend, and stay safe, stay well. Thanks again, Bala.
Thank you.
Always so grateful. All right. Bye, everyone.